Welcome back to Weekly Takes. In our first segment, I would actually like to talk about the new Stained album. This album came out about a month ago. It's called Confessions of the Fallen. It's the first new album from the band in 12 years. Aaron Lewis took some time off to go and explore his country music career. He was pretty successful there, and the time off seems to have actually really benefited the band. They came back and started doing shows. They were doing really well there. And the album is very refined. It's very Stained. Like, if you've ever listened to Stained music, it's definitely them. But there's a maturity to it. There's a growth to it that obviously comes with 12 years of a break from doing this kind of music. Stained is one of the... I would call them an OG, old school nu metal / alternative band from the mid-late 90s, early 2000s. They were, of course, right there, same time as like Korn, Linkin Park, Deftones, just Limp Bizkit. In fact, there's an interesting story about Limp Bizkit that's out there on the internet. There's a short that features Aaron Lewis, and I believe the story has been around for a while. Essentially, he describes the fact that they were touring with Limp Bizkit, or going to be touring with Limp Bizkit, and when they showed Fred Durst the album cover that they had for their upcoming CD, he kind of flipped out. The imagery was kind of like, I don't know, it was meant to be shocking. It wasn't meant to really imply anything. It was just kind of meant to be shocking. The way sometimes a rock band or a metal band or whatever, they'll do things that way. But he was freaking out. He's like, "Are you guys like some kind of demon worshippers or whatever?" And they're like, "No, dude, it's literally just art. It's just for shock value." So apparently he watched their whole set like off the side of the stage, and when they stepped off the stage, he put his arm around Aaron Lewis and said, "I'm going to get you guys a record deal." So he was extremely impressed by them, and when you go back, they have some of the greatest, songs of the era. It's been a while, that's the song. It has been a while, but It's Been a While is like a just a legacy song from if you're a 90s, 2000s rock, alternative, nu metal, whatever it is. If you're a fan of those things, that's a song that's been around. That Stained as a band has, been one of the best for this era, I believe. So Confessions of the Fallen really does come back, and it's got the Stained sound, their tone. There's kind of a subdued aggression. That's how I hear it. I think that's just because that's always been their style, but like I said, the maturity, 12 years away from doing this kind of music, but they came right back to it, got right back in the saddle. It is awesome. There's a couple singles out there. Here and Now is actually really good. I believe the other song is The Lowest in Me. That's a great song, but some of the best songs are not the singles. I really like Out of Time and the actual title track, Confessions of the Fallen, which is the last track on the album. So to me, like, if you ever listen to this, whether it's on YouTube or if you buy the CD, which is what I did, on a whim, like I've heard their music. I listen to SiriusXM Octane, so I hear Stained on there. It's been a pretty good, couple hit songs on there. But I was at the store, I saw the CD, and I was like, you know what? I kind of started this little trend of buying CDs with the Metallica, the Black album that was out, the remastered one. And I kind of want to stick with that. I want to keep rolling with it. And of course, we all know that physical media sales for music has actually kind of spiked in the last couple years. Like vinyls and CDs and now cassettes, believe it or not. Like, are 8-tracks going to come back next? It's kind of crazy, right? What about VHS? Can we bring VHS back? That was a fun time. But either way, I think we're starting to see like a continued love for the era that was the late 90s, early 2000s, not just nostalgia from people that are my age. That's a powerful mover too, because a lot of those people were very deeply connected to these things and now have some sort of resources or time or money to enjoy them more as adults. But there's also a younger generation too. I've talked about this before with nu metal and Linkin Park and some of the new bands coming up that seems to be appreciating these things as well. So best of luck to Stained. I'm really glad they're back. Aaron Lewis is an extremely talented singer. It's a great band altogether. If you have the chance, go look up the songs on YouTube, and hell, go buy the CD. CDs are pretty cheap, and you get to have it and hold it for real. My recent stream, we talked about jobs and work life. Essentially, some of the BS that you've dealt with in jobs and possibly walked out, threatened to quit, listen to stories of mistreatment by employers on their employees, things like that. It was interesting. It was a good subject for a stream, I think. I relate a lot to this in the service industry. There's always something going on, even when you're in a pretty good place, whether it's management, your coworkers, guests, just things in general. There's always something that can go wrong and give you, a stressful time. For me this week, I kind of want to talk about coworkers that are know-it-alls. And I'm sure pretty much all of you, anybody who's had a job, can relate. There will often be that one person who, even though they're consistently wrong, they will step in and cause you drama and headache just because they're going to always think they know better than you, or that you don't know enough, or whatever the situation is. They've got some kind of input that is not helpful. Definitely not as helpful as they think. So my story this week, and again, hopefully some of you can relate. If you can, leave some comments down below, and maybe I'll check out your stories for another video or another weekly takes or a stream. But essentially, there's one person, right? Like at the current restaurant I work at, I like just about everybody. I'd say 95% of the rest of the staff, the management, all pretty good. Chill, they get their jobs done. The restaurant's very well run. It's kind of a needle in a haystack to find one like this. But there's been multiple instances now where there's one person who is solely responsible for any headaches I've had at this job. I have had 2 situations now where this person, due to their actions or lack of action, has essentially put me in a position where I cannot leave on time or leave when I should have left, and have been stuck there for an hour and a half additional to make an extra $3 or an extra $5 or something like that. And it really frustrated me, but I was like, you know what? That's just that one situation where this person has some kind of influence on these things. But moving on from that, just yesterday, the way my restaurant works, you have a dining room. There's 4 sections. Like, try and picture this in your head. There's 4 different sections. There's a section on either side at the walls with like smaller booths. And in the middle, there's 2 sections with larger booths and larger tables for big parties and such. When during the week, or when you get down to like the end of the night, the quote closing server, or the one who's going to be finishing the dining room, they stay in that middle area with those 2 sections. However, it's just so that they have more tables available if needed, and they have larger tables available if needed. Really, you're only supposed to get sat in the one half of the section that is technically your actual assigned section until it's necessary to seat the other side. The host had been informed of this by the manager on duty and misheard him. There was miscommunication. So he sat me a table in that additional side without having actually filled the other section first. In fact, it was basically completely empty other than one table. And so I went up to him and I was like, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you seating section C when I'm in B? And he said, oh, the manager said to seat you in B and C. And I'm like, I don't think that's what he meant, because the way we always do it is this way. And I start to explain it, right? This other person hears the conversation and steps in and decides to just start spouting stuff that they don't know about and trying to tell me, oh no, this is how it's always done. This is how we do it now, yada, yada, yada. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, yes, I know that because A, I'm not stupid. B, I'm typically the person in that position, running that section, dealing with that. And So as they are jumping into the conversation that would have been extremely simple and I would have been able to get the point across, they essentially confuse this kid who is the host and get him all frustrated and riled up because now me and the other person are disagreeing over this. And then, of course, later the manager comes out. I tell him about the situation and he corrects it and says, right, you're not supposed to get sat there unless needed and your section's empty, so we're supposed to be seating you there. So it was all just a miscommunication, but this other person who has to have their 2 cents and has to be a know-it-all comes in and confuses things and frustrates things to a point where, until I was able to get the manager, I got sat 3 more additional tables in that other section that I didn't need to, meaning I now had 2 whole sections to clean at the end of the night. But that's just one example, and it's just one example from me of how know-it-all coworkers can frustrate your life and get in the way of, simple things. So again, if you have any stories of your own, please share those. I would love to see them. So if you weren't aware, and I'm not sure how you wouldn't be, considering if you're subscribed to this channel, you've probably seen my shorts over the years where I had a lot of Pokemon Go content. I kind of overdid it for about a year there. And I've talked about Pokemon Go on, various other pieces of content. But I play a lot of Pokemon Go. Every day, logging in probably 10 different times. I try to, enjoy the different events and things that go on, but oftentimes I'm at work. I shiny hunt a lot, things like that. I do raiding, remote raiding in particular. That's part of the subject here. But as we all know, well, if you know anything about Pokemon Go, if you don't, I'll explain. In Pokemon Go, there's the ability to do these raids, around your town. There's gyms where special Pokemon, like legendary Pokemon or whatever, will appear, and you can battle them to try and catch rare, interesting Pokemon. Many of them are fairly difficult and should have multiple players to go against them. That's why it's a raid, and it's supposed to bring the community together and get you to play with other people. Kind of a Pokemon thing to do, right? Makes sense. However, in many places, it's extremely difficult to encounter other people. And even if you know a couple people, oftentimes some of the high-end raids, the stuff you really want to do, aren't going to be winnable with 2 or 3 people. And there's not just a bunch of people wandering the streets playing Pokemon Go and going to these gyms around town. And even if they are, what are the odds that you're going to go to a gym that they are, and encounter them? So remote raiding became a thing. If you're at a gym, you can invite up to 5 of your friends and they can join remotely. They have a slight disadvantage for, their power against the Pokemon you're fighting. But it does make it more winnable, and especially if there might be 1 or 2 other people there playing and they invite friends. You see this a lot on big time community days and stuff like that. But remote raiding isn't free. So if somebody sends me an invite, they're in another state or another city and they want me to join them and help out and get an opportunity to catch this Pokemon as well, I have to use a remote raid pass that used to cost 100 Pokecoins, which is basically $1. And there is a mechanism in the game to earn Pokecoins by placing your Pokemon at gyms and having other people have to fight them. And the longer they stay, the more Pokecoins you get, up to 50 in a day. So in 2 days' time, basically, of having your Pokemon in gyms, you could potentially collect enough money to buy a remote raid pass. Recently, they upped the price to $2 a pass and limited your remote raiding to 5 times a day. Many power users had issue with this. Why would you restrict a way that you're going to make money off of me being able to play the game the way I want to? Because there's ways to join people remotely through online lobbies and connections through the internet. In other countries, you can do remote raiding with people who are in Japan and Brazil and Canada, whatever. And it's a great way to expand the community, keep people hooked, and let them play and get the Pokemon they want, get the experience they want. Niantic doesn't seem, first of all, they seem allergic to money and people enjoying their game, but they also don't seem like they're going to be backtracking at any point here. So my solution, what I thought of, Niantic wants to keep their current format. Why not offer a subscription plan for power users? And it could be $20 a month. It could be it could be like $25 a month. It sounds like a lot, but for people who play this game a lot, it's really not. They probably spend at least that much, maybe more. But for $25 a month, imagine you include 5 remote raid passes. Maybe you throw in some more, quote, permanent egg incubators. This was what I was thinking of today while I was driving home from work. Maybe like throw in like 3 more permanent egg incubators as long as you have a subscription. So you can have 4 total instead of having to continuously earn or buy new ones. And then it also unlock unlimited remote play. So you get your 5 there, and then because you're paying, you can also remote play as much as you want with, other passes you pay for yourself. Things like this is where Niantic, that may not be perfect and maybe it could be expanded, but Niantic needs to be doing this. Why are they not trying to innovate the space and expand players' abilities to enjoy the game and then make more money off of them? They continuously do the opposite. They continuously restrict their community and take away their options, ways that make them money as well. It's really backwards thinking, but I think a subscription plan for like power players of the game would be a really good option. And you could even use the money made from that to help subsidize and lower some of the prices in the store for, free-to-play players. Thanks again for checking out Weekly Takes. If you enjoyed this minicast, please subscribe to the channel for more. Check out the playlist for past episodes. Leave a like, and if you have anything to say, any feedback, definitely leave a comment, and we'll see you next week.